Have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening inside your body when you push yourself? During a tough workout, a long run, or even just when you switch up your diet? Well, today, we are diving deep into the amazing science of how our bodies change and adapt, how they literally rebuild themselves to get stronger, faster, and way more resilient.
We all kind of know that if you train, you get better. But how? What's the secret sauce? It's definitely not just about willpower. It's this incredible, complex dance of stress, response, and rebuilding that's happening at a cellular level. So how does your body really get stronger? Let's get into it. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the big idea, the adaptive body. Then we'll look at how we fuel it for performance. After that, we'll dig into training, stress, and fatigue. Then we'll zoom out to see how our environment affects our endurance, and we'll wrap it all up with the super important blueprint for recovery.
All right, let's jump right in. First up, we've got to lay the groundwork. Section 1 is all about the fundamental science of change, the core concept that drives everything else we're going to talk about, the adaptive body.
Okay, so everything, and I mean everything, comes down to this one powerful idea: physiological adaptation. In simple terms, it's just your body's amazing process of adjusting to a stressor. Could be a workout, could be a diet, so that the next time it faces that same stress, it's ready. It's like your body is constantly learning and upgrading itself. This is the why behind every bit of progress you make.
So now that we get the why, let's talk about how. And that conversation has to start with fuel, right? If your body is this high-performance engine, then what you put in the tank is going to totally change how it runs and, more importantly, how it adapts. And a perfect example of this in action is the whole fasted versus fed exercise debate. When you exercise in a fasted state, your body adapts by getting way better at burning its own fat for fuel. It's a survival mechanism. But if you've just eaten, it's going to prioritize the carbs you just gave it. It's not about one being better than the other, it's just a beautiful illustration of how smart your body is at adapting its fuel strategy based on what's on the menu.
And this idea goes way deeper. Every diet pretty much creates its own unique metabolic signature. For example, if you go on a ketogenic diet, you're pushing your body to become such an efficient fat-burning machine that it actually changes how genes are expressed in your heart. A low-carb diet does something similar. On the flip side, slow-absorbing carbs help keep your energy levels steady. Each approach is a different signal that triggers a very specific and pretty incredible adaptation.
And let's not forget, fuel isn't just food, it's water. On average, after a single training session, you can lose about 0.84% of your body weight just in fluid. Now that might not sound like a huge number, but it really drives home a critical point. Every single workout is also a workout for your body's hydration management system. It's constantly adapting to the stress of dehydration.
Okay, and here is a wild one. It's not just your muscles and your heart that are adapting. Your gut is in on the action too. I'm not kidding. Research is showing that certain compounds produced by the bacteria in your gut are directly linked to improvements in athletic performance. So yeah, a healthy gut is literally part of what makes a high-performing body. How cool is that?
So, we've covered the fuel. Now let's talk about the engine itself. In this next section, we're diving into training, stress, and fatigue. The actual process of intentionally pushing our limits to kickstart all these amazing adaptations we've been talking about.
Now, to really understand performance, we have to know the lingo. And the first big one is VO2 max. This is basically the maximum amount of oxygen your body can take in and use while you're going all out. You can think of it like the size of your aerobic engine. A bigger VO2 max means you're better at getting oxygen to your muscles, which is a massive indicator of your overall fitness.
The other key metric is your lactate threshold. You know that feeling when you're pushing hard and your muscles start to burn and you just have to slow down? That's your lactate threshold. It's the point where your body is producing lactate faster than it can clear it out. The whole goal of endurance training really is to push that point higher and higher so you can go harder for longer.
So how do we actually improve these things? Well, this chart just lays it out so clearly. When researchers compared a high-intensity training group with a low-intensity one, the results were, obvious. The high-intensity group saw a huge jump in their VO2 max, and the low-intensity group, barely any change. It's proof that the kind of stress you apply really matters for the kind of adaptation you get. But here's the thing. Getting stronger isn't just about your heart and lungs getting bigger. Your nervous system is getting a major software update too. Your brain gets quicker at firing signals to your muscles. Your tendons get stiffer, acting like little springs that give you free energy return with every step. Your muscles literally learn to resist fatigue. So you're not just building a bigger engine,
You're programming it to run way more efficiently.
Okay, so we've looked at fuel and training, but our bodies don't operate in a bubble, right? In this next section, we're going to explore how we adapt not just to our workouts, but to the actual environment around us.
Let's take heat, for instance. If you train in the heat consistently, your body makes some absolutely brilliant upgrades. First, you start sweating more and sooner, which makes your built-in cooling system way more effective. Second, your heart doesn't have to be as fast to do the same amount of work. And third, you just feel better. It doesn't feel as oppressively hot anymore. You literally adapt to handle the heat.
And then there's altitude. Up high, where the air's thin, there's less oxygen. So what does the body do? Its main adaptation is to create more hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the stuff in your red blood cells that actually carries the oxygen. So your body essentially builds more little delivery trucks for oxygen, making every single heartbeat more productive.
Now you'd think, okay, I'll combine them. I'll train in the heat and at altitude to become a super athlete. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, the science shows that doing both at the same time doesn't actually give you any extra benefit when you come back down to sea level. It's a really important reminder that adaptation isn't just about piling on more and more stress. It's about applying the right stress for the right outcome.
And that brings us perfectly to our final and honestly, probably the most overlooked section, the blueprint for recovery. Because all that stress and all that training is completely worthless if we don't give our bodies the time and the tools they need to actually do the rebuilding.
Look, if you remember one thing about recovery, let it be this. It is deeply, deeply personal. There is no one-size-fits-all plan. Age is a massive factor. Kids clear out lactate way faster than adults do. Sex plays a role too, with studies showing some differences in recovery rates. Even your own body can adapt to things like sleep deprivation over time. It all just proves that you have to figure out the recovery strategy that works for you.
And this quote from the research just hammers that point home. We're not talking about tiny little differences here. These are significant, fundamental physiological realities. It's the perfect example of why you can't just copy some pro athlete's recovery routine and expect to get the same results. Your body is playing by its own set of rules. And the choices you make during recovery have a direct, measurable impact. For example, some research has shown that using ice baths after lifting weights can actually lead to smaller gains in muscle size. Now, that's not to say ice baths are bad, it just shows that our recovery choices are powerful signals that can literally change the outcome of all our hard work.
So, when you boil it all down, what have we learned today? That from the food we eat to the air we breathe, from the stress we put on ourselves to the rest we give ourselves, our bodies are in this constant, brilliant state of adaptation. They are incredible learning machines, always remodeling and improving. So the only real question left is this one. Your body is built to adapt. What are you going to challenge it to adapt to next?